So, a mysterious 9-page PDF quietly gets posted to this obscure cryptography mailing list in 2008, and it fundamentally rewrote the rules of global finance.
Yeah, which is an incredibly rare way for a functional, world-changing ecosystem to be introduced. I mean, usually,
There's no launch event, right? No,
yeah,
no PR team.
Yeah.
Just this purely technical document dropped onto the internet by a pseudonymous figure named Satoshi Nakamoto.
right. Usually a system that complex requires, volumes of documentation and massive corporate backing.
But this document, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system,
Mm.
it did it in just 9 pages. And that is actually our mission for this deep dive, which is custom tailored just for you. We're stripping away all the modern
Oh,
norms,
yeah, the wild headlines, the price charts.
all the internet culture. Exactly. We want to look exclusively at the foundational logic. We are exploring the core technology and the strict rules outlined in this original paper that made a completely trustless financial system possible.
And when you remove all that hype, the text itself reveals just a brilliantly constructed masterclass. I mean, it weaves together cryptography, game theory, network architecture, all into a system where the rules basically enforce themselves.
Right. But to appreciate how those rules work, we first need to understand the gaping hole in the internet that this paper was trying to fill.
Hmm.
Like, why did a peer-to-peer cash system even need to exist in the first place?
Well, it all traces back to the fundamental flaw in how we conduct commerce online.
Yeah, because we are forced to rely entirely on financial institutions. Banks, credit card companies, payment processors. They're all acting as middlemen.
Exactly. The paper refers to them as trusted third parties. And while that model functions adequately for, most daily activities, it carries these inherent structural weaknesses.
Because when a bank mediates a transaction, that mediation requires human oversight, right?
Yeah.
Infrastructure, dispute resolution, and all of that costs money.
Yes. And those costs are inevitably passed on to the consumer and the merchant through transaction fees.
Which creates a massive limitation. Because if you want to send someone, I don't know, a fraction of a cent for reading an article, or just tip a creator a few pennies, you simply can't do it.
Right. The processing fee ends up being higher than the actual transaction.
Yeah, it completely cuts off the possibility for small, casual commerce.
Furthermore, because these third parties are tasked with mediating disputes, transactions are inherently reversible.
Oh, right.
Yeah, a completely final, non-reversible payment just isn't really possible online the way, say, handing someone physical cash is.
Because a customer can always call their credit card company weeks later and demand a chargeback.
Exactly. And because of that risk, merchants are forced to treat their own customers with suspicion. They have to harvest vast amounts of personal data just to protect themselves from fraud.
And a certain percentage of that fraud is just accepted by the financial system as like an unavoidable cost of doing business online.
Right. So the stated goal of Nakamoto's paper is to break that reliance, to allow any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without needing that trusted third party to bless the exchange.
But the moment you try to remove the bank from the equation, you run into this massive technological wall. The paper calls it the double spending problem.
Which is the core issue of digital money.
Yeah, let me give you a real-world analogy to picture why this is so difficult. Think about how sending digital information usually works. Like, if I text you a digital photograph of my dog, you now have the photo, but I haven't lost it.
You still have a copy.
Right. I still have a perfect identical copy of that exact same photo sitting on my phone.
And that duplication is the core issue. Because if we are sending digital coins instead of photos, the receiver has absolutely no way to know that the sender hasn't secretly kept a copy of that digital file.
And just already sent that exact same digital coin to someone else.
Exactly. In the physical world, if I hand you a $20 bill, I don't have it anymore.
But in the digital world, data is infinitely replicable.
Yeah. And before this paper, the only way anyone solved that double spending problem was by using a central mint.
Right, like a central server.
Yeah. After every single transaction, the digital coin effectively had to go back to a central server to be verified, cross off a ledger, and reissued.
Which simply recreates the original problem.
Exactly. The fate of the entire monetary system depends entirely on the company running that central mint. It becomes a single point of failure.
So the objective here is to replace that central mint with mathematical cryptographic proof.
That's the goal.
So, okay, the central authority is gone, but that leaves us with a glaring void. If there's no bank checking the ledger, how do you and I definitively track who actually owns a digital coin at any given moment? Like, how does the paper even define what a coin is?
It takes a radically literal approach. The text defines an electronic coin simply as a chain of digital signatures.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. If I own a coin, how do I physically attach my signature to hand it to you?
Well, think of it as a transparent chain of custody. When the current owner wants to transfer a coin, they take two specific pieces of information: the record of the previous transaction,
It proves where they got it.
right, and the public key or the digital address of the person they are sending it to.
Okay.
They run those two pieces of data through a mathematical algorithm to create a unique cryptographic fingerprint, which is called a hash.
A hash.
Finally, they digitally sign that hash using their own private key and attach it to the end of the coin's history.
Okay, so if I am the person receiving that coin, I can look at that string of data and verify the entire history of ownership. Like, I can mathematically prove that every single previous owner authorized the transfer to the next person all the way down to me.
Exactly. Mathematical verification replaces human verification. The chain of custody is undeniable.
I'm going to push back on this, though, because I see a massive loophole here.
Okay, what is it?
Verifying the chain of custody proves that the coin arrived in my hands legitimately. But that still doesn't solve the digital photo problem. What proves that the previous owner didn't digitally sign that same coin over to someone else an hour before they signed it over to me? To know my transaction is the valid one, the entire network needs to agree on the precise chronological order of events. And without a central clock or a central server, how do thousands of independent computers agree on what time it is?
Yeah, that is the pivotal hurdle of the entire system. And the paper introduces a concept called the distributed timestamp server to solve it.
But how do you timestamp something without a central clock?
You do it by utilizing the public themselves. The paper uses the analogy of publishing information in a widely distributed newspaper or a public Usenet post.
Okay.
A traditional timestamp server takes a block of items, in this case, a batch of recent transactions, hashes them into a single unique fingerprint, and broadcasts that hash to the entire network.
I see the logic there. It's kind of like the classic kidnapping movie trope.
How do you mean?
Like, if you take a photograph holding today's newspaper, you undeniably prove that the photograph must have been taken after that newspaper was printed. The data had to exist at that specific moment in time to be included in the hash.
That's a great analogy. And the true ingenuity comes in the next step. Every time a new block of transactions is hashed and broadcast, it must include the timestamp hash of the previous block inside of it.
Oh, so they are structurally linked.
Yes, it forms a continuous interlocking chain. Every new block reinforces the ones that came before it.
So if you try to change a transaction in an old block, you change its mathematical fingerprint.
Exactly. And that instantly breaks the link to the next block, and the entire chain shatters.
Wow, okay, that makes the history immutable. But it brings up another huge question of authority. Because if there is no central publisher for this metaphorical newspaper, who actually gets to compile these blocks and add them to the chain, if everyone on the network is screaming their transactions at the same time, what stops two different people from publishing two different blocks simultaneously? Like, what mechanism forces everyone to agree on a single, official version of history?
Well, the paper solves this peer-to-peer consensus problem by introducing a proof-of-work system. And it draws heavy inspiration from a prior invention called Hashcash, which was created by Adam Back to limit email spam.
Proof of work. Yeah, this is a term that gets thrown around a lot, often without much explanation. Let's really break down the actual work being done by the computers on this network. What are they sweating over?
They're essentially playing a massive cryptographic guessing game. When a computer on the network, a node, wants to publish a new block of transactions, it takes all that data and adds a completely random throwaway number to it. This random number is called a nonce.
A nonsense number, basically. Just
Yeah.
a random string of digits.
Correct. The node takes the transaction data, adds the nonce, and runs the whole package through a cryptographic algorithm called SHA-256. This algorithm spits out a new, unpredictable hash. But the network rules dictate that a block is only valid if that resulting hash begins with a specific number of zeros.
Wait, so you throw the data and the random nonce into the blender, and you basically just hope the output starts with, say, 20 zeros.
Exactly. And because cryptographic hashes are entirely unpredictable, you cannot reverse engineer the answer.
You just have to guess.
The only way to find a hash that starts with enough zeros is to change the nonce, run the algorithm again, and check the result over and over and over again, billions of times a second.
It sounds like trying to crack a combination lock by just spinning the dial as fast as you can until it pops open.
That's exactly what it is.